This is my WWE Cyber Sunday 2008 pay-per-view review. Now, the way I'm going to do this, obviously, is just going to give out, when I go through the matches, obviously, it's going to tell, who the person took on and what the stipulation is, instead of, naming all three stipulations, naming three opponents, because pretty much, all you already know what the stipulations were going into the voting and, the opponents for it, so it's pointless to go over that. So, first matchup was Rey Mysterio versus Kane. Kind of surprised this was the opener, but surprisingly, it was actually a good match between these two. It ended up being a no-holds-barred match, which I think did help out these two. This match, unlike the No Mercy match, did have a decisive finish, so that did help it out and improve the quality of the match. Saw some good back-and-forth stuff. Still not excellent stuff, but decent quality stuff. They worked pretty good with each other. Maybe, a couple more times, give a little more time in the ring and let them build up to something good. Then it possibly might turn into a good match. This was pretty good. A good overall opener. Rey Mysterio wins after the splash onto Kane, springboard splash to Kane, and about a two and a half star match. Pretty good opener. Then the next matchup was Matt Hardy defending the United States Heavyweight Champion, ECW Championship against Evan Bourne. This was a very good match. This was definitely probably the second best match of the evening, just behind Triple H and Jeff Hardy, and I'll talk about that when I get to it. Now, this was a good match between these two. Thankfully, Matt Hardy finally had a good quality match for the ECW title, and actually a good quality match on pay-per-view in a long time. Not taking on Matt Hardy, not taking on Mark Henry, taking on someone that actually has, good wrestling ability in Evan Bourne, aka Matt Sydal. This was a, definitely a good fast-paced match, a lot of enjoyable stuff in it. Really liked it a whole lot, and definitely hope these two at some point in the near future do have a feud between each other, like, everyone would expect. Matt Hardy did go over in this match, but the one thing it did help out was, during this match, there was points where it looked like it was believable that Evan Bourne looked like he was going to defeat Matt Hardy. They did one spot where at the end of it looked like, it was just going to end quick in a twist of fate at the end, and he reverses into a pinfall. Then Matt Hardy ends up hitting it the second time he tries it to Evan Bourne, picks up the victory, keeps a hold of the ECW title. A very good match. Like I said, second best match of the night, right behind Triple H and Jeff Hardy. 3 and 1/4 star. Then the next matchup was Cryme versus Miz and Morrison. This was the match that won the Pick Your Tag match, or what WWE call pick the match for the fans. And definitely, like I expected, I was pretty sure this was going to be the one to win the voting due to the fact of Cryme being the most over tag team in WWE. And I'm not a fan of them, but the one thing I will say is it doesn't make any sense why this tag team hasn't been a world tag team champions at some point in their careers. I'm pretty sure I don't think they've held the tag titles. If they did, it hasn't obviously been since they returned to WWE, since their first outing in WWE. Because I don't think they've ever been tag champs. So surprised me they never have been tag champs. Don't understand why they didn't do it. Them beating Rhodes and DiBiase at one point. Even though I like that tag team, I will admit, like a lot of people, they're not that over. I think they're trying to push them way too early, but there's a lot of potential in Ted DiBiase Jr. And Cody Rhodes, I think, is good. He just needs to possibly, improve his mic skills dramatically and improve his wrestling just a little bit. But he's a pretty decent overall wrestler. But back to this match with Cryme versus John Morrison and The Miz. Surprisingly, this was a good match. I was expecting this to be a good, entertaining match, but didn't actually expect it to be that good as far as the in-ring quality, which actually was pretty good. JTG and John Morrison worked pretty good with each other. Morrison and Miz, both these tag teams work very good and do a lot of good, tag team maneuver, double teaming and stuff. A good overall tag match. Felt kind of like somewhat a little bit of a old school mix with the new school mix of tag team wrestling, and kind of, worked out well and was, pretty enjoyable match, I would say. John Morrison picks up the victory after hitting the Midnight Ride onto Chad Gaspar in a about a 2.5 star match. So, pretty good quality tag match. Better quality than what I thought it was going to be. Then the next matchup was the Santino Marella versus the pick the wrestler for the IC title, and ended up being Honky Tonk Man, and actually ended up being Honky Tonk Man himself, not Charlie Haas portraying him, because I know a good amount of people probably thought that, with these legends thing and Charlie Haas playing these gimmicks, that they thought, some people probably thought they would do that. I thought they would. But, it's actually Honky Tonk Man there. At first, before he was announced as being the participant, Santino did some pretty funny, comical stuff on the mic. Shaquille O'Neal was in the crowd, did something a little funny towards him. Then Honky Tonk Man came out there. He got on the mic, did his stuff. It was a good segment between these two. Obviously, the match quality, was a complete dud. 1 star at best if you do want to give it a rating. And Santino Marella ends up keeping a hold of the IC title, but not winning the match. At one point, the match is very, very short. Honky Tonk Man gets whipped into the corner. Beth Phoenix grabs his legs, trips him, and the referee DQs Santino Marella. So he loses by DQ, but keeps a hold of the IC title. Possibly, maybe since they did this, maybe they're trying to, not completely get rid of the Honky Tonk Man thing, and maybe some point down the line, if they do drag this on till next year at this time, possibly, have Honky Tonk Man come out there again, and then that time, Santino Marella will actually defeat him. I feel maybe that's what they're doing. Or, maybe they just want to do this route, but I don't know what they're going to be doing with this whole Beth Phoenix thing with him, because they've been teasing, so many times they, breaking up, or, maybe they're just playing the gimmick of they're having a rocky relationship. So guess we'll have to wait and see what route they go with, but hopefully they won't break them two up, because they do work very good with each other and, comical roles. Then up next was, other than the Santino Marella and Honky Tonk match, which I really don't consider a match, next was probably the worst match that was actually a match, and that was Undertaker versus Big Show. Not that much of a fan when these two take on each other every time. I think it's a complete bore fest when these two take on each other. It wasn't enjoyable at all. Just a lot of back and forth punches. This ended up being a last man standing match. Undertaker ended up actually not a actually wait 1 second. Yes, it was a last man standing match. Undertaker ends up picking up the victory after using the go-go plata. Big Show can't get up by the 10 count. Undertaker gets up in the last second and wins the match. Not that good of a match. Possibly if you're a fan of a lot of big man matches, you might like it, especially maybe if you're a Big Show fan, because I've never been a fan of him, so that pretty much, kind of hurts his quality of the matches, because I've never enjoyed pretty much any of his matches that he's ever had. I think he's, a complete bore fest all the time. At best, if I want to be a little generous to it, maybe 1.5 stars, and that's being very generous to it. Then up next was, they did, just like they did, I think, last year at Cyber Sunday, where they did the Divas costume contest during the portion of the show before they actually announced the winner and having all of them in the ring. They did, just a little thing with them being in the costume for a second, mentioning who they are or who they're playing or whatever. And then, they all come out there. Mickie James ends up winning, and then after she wins, you see, a lot of the women brawl, and that's the end of that segment. Nothing enjoyable at all. Much would have rather seen a women's title defense on this pay-per-view. Other than that, but maybe for time constraints, maybe they didn't have time to put it on here. Then you had, in my opinion, the match of the night, which was Triple H versus Jeff Hardy for the WWE title. Thankfully, this ended up being Triple H versus Jeff Hardy. For some weird reason, I thought they possibly would have done the triple threat, or fans would have voted for the triple threat, to add to the notion where, you could see, Jeff Hardy and Triple H still, but you add another person in. Thankfully, they didn't. Thankfully, the fans didn't vote for that, or at least WWE, didn't vote for that, because everyone knows WWE rigs it anyway in their position, what they want to do anyway, if they don't like what the fans pick for anyway. So, this was a good match. I wouldn't say as good as last, the No Mercy pay-per-view match they've had, but pretty close to that. You saw a lot of good stuff in here. Saw a lot of good mat work between these two. Jeff Hardy did a lot of good high spots in here. Just like, the month before, they, pretty much up until the end, it looked like Jeff Hardy was a believable winning the title. I know a lot of people are going to dislike the ending of this match due to Triple H going over. I really don't have a problem with it. I think, though, like I said before, I think they're probably going to build up to something with Triple H and Jeff Hardy down the line where Jeff Hardy finally ends up defeating Triple H, and it's probably going to come around full circle at some point in the near future, possibly the Rumble or possibly WrestleMania, because they keep having these two take on each other so much. And they're not, and Triple H isn't burying him either. He's putting on good matches against him, making it look believable that Jeff Hardy's going to go over up until the last split second. Triple H, the funny thing was the way the match ended is Jeff Hardy was draped on the top rope, and you might think, okay, Triple H, he's not going to do a Pepsi plunge, which obviously he didn't. All he did was kind of pull him forward in a Pepsi plunge position, but he was, I think, maybe on the bottom rope, and then he backed up, called him, and then hit the pedigree, and ended up winning the match and keeping a hold of the title. Very good match. Not as good as their No Mercy match, but pretty close. 3 3/4 stars. Definitely match of the night, at least in my opinion. Then the main event was Chris Jericho versus Batista for the World Heavyweight title with Stone Cold Steve Austin as the special guest referee. This was pretty much kind of booked in the way I would say kind of like an old school style ECW match where you had a lot of interference, but it made sense and it was enjoyable to watch. Quality match, wrestling wise, wasn't the greatest, but it was an enjoyable watch. You saw some good stuff in here. One point in the match, Austin accidentally got speared by Batista. He gets knocked down to the floor. Jericho hits the code breaker, so no ref is there. Then Shawn Michaels comes out there. He does a very slow count. Then you see JBL come out of nowhere. JBL knocks down Shawn Michaels. Don't know if this is possibly going to lead to something with Shawn Michaels and JBL down the line. Hopefully it doesn't, because I definitely do not want to see them two take on each other. Then you saw Orton come out there, and you saw interaction between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Randy Orton. You saw Randy Orton take the stunner from Stone Cold Steve Austin, and the way the match ended was Batista hit the powerbomb to Jericho. Stone Cold counted 1, 2, 3, and the new WWE not the new WWE, but the new World Heavyweight Champion is Batista. In the full circle, I would much rather wanted Chris Jericho to win this match, but it's going to make sense down the line because they're building up to John Cena's return, and they pretty much built it in storyline wise that Batista sidelined him, so him being world champion right now with Cena returning makes sense, and it's a pretty good move by WWE because I'm pretty sure that is probably going to be one of the WrestleMania main events for the Raw Heavyweight title or the World Heavyweight title, whichever one you want to call it. But definitely, them two could have a very good match at WrestleMania. Would have liked Jericho to retain, but really don't have too much of a problem with it since I know they're doing this for the reason of having a Batista versus John Cena feud and possibly lead it up till WrestleMania with them two taking on each other. And obviously, Batista versus John Cena on WWE's biggest card at WrestleMania. And I think it's April. That just equals WWE a lot of money, and it makes sense business-wise. And match-wise, I'll give it 3 1/4 stars. Overall, I'll give the pay-per-view a 7.25. Definitely, enjoyable pay-per-view. Definitely far exceeded my expectations. Wasn't really looking forward to this pay-per-view at all. But, a lot of good quality stuff. You had Evan Bourne versus Matt Hardy, which was a very good match. Triple H versus Jeff Hardy put on another, very good to great match between the two. A very enjoyable main event with a lot of run-ins that, booked in a way that at least made sense every time, other than maybe JBL. But, it's JBL, so I guess they wanted him on pay-per-view some way, so they said, hey, go out there and, clothesline Shawn Michaels, do something like that. But, saw and pretty much the rest of the stuff was overall enjoyable. And, you had Santino Marella and Honky Tonk Man, which was a good comedy segment or a segment portion of the show. So, overall, like I said, give the show about 7.25. Definitely would recommend watching it. Not necessarily saying go out your way and buy it, but there's stuff on here that you would want to check out though. And that's my Cyber Sunday 2008 pay-per-view review. All right, peace.